Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox, and hopefully today we'll be back to normal. We have got a lot of stories to get through, so we will be hitting the ground running. But this first story is really an example of, let's just say, stupidity at its best, a failure to understand what's going on, and basically the SNP not seeing what's going on the ground. Now, they've already had the Margaret Ferrier incident where they're likely to lose this seat and lose it big to Labour. And you'd think that this would teach them a lesson. But apparently these people are quite incapable of learning any kind of lesson. And there are plans afoot to basically get rid of Fergus Ewing, of all people. To get him ousted from that seat, to deselect him, have a by-election, and lose. There's no other option. They would absolutely lose, and the kickback from this would be utterly destructive. Fergus Ewing is basically the only member of the SNP who is acceptable to people outside the SNP. He's one of the very few politicians across the whole of the country that people actively like and trust, even if you disagree with his politics. And they're looking to oust him. Are these people quite literally retarded? Who knows? Anyway, we'll have a look at this story, see what's going on. But it is madness. Here goes. So plans to oust SNP MSP Fergus Ewing could be derailed as the party fears by-election impact in Winnie's seat. Now, it's quite clear that the one person the SNP cannot afford to lose is Fergus Ewing. He himself is very well respected. Ousting him would split the party irrevocably. Now, Humza Yousaf is already in a very weak position. If he does this, that position will be undermined to such an extent it would be the end of his political career and the end of quite a few others. Kate Forbes would immediately rise to the top and become leader. She would immediately do her best to not only get Fergus Ewing back, but make sure he's back in a senior position. She would make sure that the old wankers of the SNP were ousted and have no power or say anymore. She would bring in a much younger team, and she would fundamentally change the outlook for the SNP. But further than that, the wider issues would be with the general outlook of the people of Scotland on the SNP, and particularly SNP voters, who would see what they're doing and would find, for a lot of them, it to be completely unacceptable. And it could see, the final end of the SNP, and at the next election, they could be literally wiped out. That's how serious this is. They are after him. There is a witch hunt against him because he dared to vote against keeping Jeffrey in power. Not even his party, of course. She's a Green, not an SNP. He's never voted against an SNP. And yet, for some reason, they're gunning for him. Winnie will be whirling in her urn. Anyway, senior party figures are claimed to be gunning for Ewing, but their attacks on the MSP after his mum's death have been branded cruel. And that's the fact of it. And they cannot get away from that. It's almost as though they're blind to reality, I've got to say. Senior SNP figures who want veteran MSP Fergus Ewing out of the party could be thwarted over fears it will damage the SNP vote in the by-election where his late mother won a legendary victory. It absolutely would. And beyond that, it would damage the party everywhere. The MSP for Inverness and Nairn is facing suspension from his party after voting against the Green Minister Lorna Slater in a motion of no confidence. And to quote Obi-Wan, if you strike him down, he will return more powerful than they can possibly imagine. Taking the whip from Fergus Ewing is a nuclear option, and they will lose. Ewing, a former cabinet minister, has been critical of policies including the deposit return scheme, which was doomed to fail from the start, the highly protected marine areas, which was doomed to fail from the start, which he said would be detrimental to his constituency, and he was also against, of course, the closure of the oil fields. He's desperate to get the A9 duelled. Well, of course he is, Inverness. He desperately needs that duelled. All these things that his party claimed they were going to do and aren't doing. Astounding, isn't it? Sources close to the Daily Mail say his outspoken opinions have made him a target by senior ministers. I mean, in there you can basically put wankers, who have used his vote against Slater as the reason to get rid of him. And yet, you've got to analyse that. He's not voted against the SNP. He's voted against Jeffrey, who is absolutely useless at her job. And any right-minded person would have voted against her. And now, every single backbencher is against her and is against the Greens. If they reran that vote today, she would be out. Others said the party was afraid to take action before Rutherglen and Hamilton West by-election due to Winnie Ewing's victory there in 1967. In June, Ewing voted with the Tories to get rid of Slater over her handling of the 20p bottle deposit scheme, which has now thankfully been scrapped. But plans to discipline him were put on hold after his mum died on June the 21st, the day after his rebellion. She would have been proud of his rebellion, and she would have gone to her rest sure in the knowledge that her son was upholding the tradition of actually looking after the people of his constituency and the people of Scotland in general. On Thursday this week, MSPs paid tribute to Winnie Ewing in Holyrood, but the next day reports emerged claiming Ewing was to be suspended from the party imminently. And they daren't do it because they know if they did, the can of worms they'd be opening would be it'd just be terminal for the party. There's Winnie. Sitting on top of the world. I'm on top of the world, ma. One party insider said, the day after the MSP stand up in Parliament and pay tribute to Winnie, they're out there saying her son's going to get chucked. Shirley-Anne Somerville. Now, if Shirley-Anne Somerville was anything, and she's not, she's a nothing, she's an insect, she would be on her knees begging for the power, influence and popularity of Fergus. Shirley-Anne Somerville is just a disgusting human being. And George Adams said he thinks he should be expelled, as does Shona Robertson. Well, Shona Robertson's just another nasty piece of work, who, if Kate becomes leader, Shona Robertson also is done. It is ruthless to be attacking one of your own right after they've suffered such a huge personal loss. Sources revealed the party have not contacted him about the removal of the whip, and one said Fergus was warned in June by the whips that they wanted to see him for an explanation about why he voted against Slater. I think the obvious reason is she is a useless tosser. She cannot get anything right. She's thick, she's stupid, she lacks foresight, she blames others for everything she gets wrong, and she's not a good orator. She has to have that piece of paper there and read from it because she can't remember anything. She's thick as champ. Anyway, a very detailed explanation was given. He said it was because the DRS was a catastrophic policy which would destroy many businesses, and had it not been stopped would have caused massive price hikes for ordinary people in the middle of an election campaign. He's heard nothing since. He's now reading that he's going to have the whip removed. He's finding it interesting to read about his fate and punishment in the newspapers before they get around to issuing charges. He said it's Alice in Wonderland methods of justice. Sentence first, evidence later, and they're following none of the rules that they're supposed to. Ewing said he was unable to comment, and the SNP was contracted for comment, and they said nothing either. But it goes to show the nasty, vindictive, petty-minded wankers running the SNP. But Shirley-Anne Somerville, well, we all know what she is, don't we? Anyway, I shall stop there and I shall come up. Now, I'm not going to go in too much into depth about Shirley-Anne Somerville, but she is a serial failure, much in the mould of Humza Yousaf. And I will just say that she's a bit of a political whore. She has been putting herself around for years, desperate to get in, you know, pushing here, pushing there, and there was never any takers. And she's lazy. She's absolutely lazy, and she's stupid beyond understanding. And if you really want to know, go and have a look at the article by Wings Over Scotland. He does a massive breakdown about how awful she is and how lazy she is and how just fucking useless she is at everything. He does a right hit piece on her, and I think it's very good reading. But the rest of them are all there, you know. So Fergus Ewing represents everything Shirley-Anne Somerville isn't. Fergus Ewing is a capable man. He's an intelligent man. He's a hard-working man who represents his constituents regardless of their politics. He doesn't favour the SNP constituents over any Labour, Tory, Lib Dem, Independent, doesn't matter. He served, and he served well, and he served long. And I would suggest, even if he was if they removed the whip and there was an election, he would get in as an independent because he is respected. As I say, he's one of the very few politicians across the whole of Britain, not just in Scotland, the whole of Britain, for whom people have a genuine a genuine respect for. And it's something that these other people, jealous, small-minded, nobodies, non-entities, they're desperately jealous of him. Envious to the point of eating their own faces with envy. So, of course, they must destroy him. Because he is everything. Not only that they're not, but they will never, ever be. So good luck to Fergus. It doesn't matter what they do to him. He will win. Because he will. Thank you very much for watching. I hope this video has been excellent. I've enjoyed doing this one. And I hope... Nice to start the day on a nice video, isn't it? And I hope that this video has indeed earned a subscription. And until next time, stay safe, stay well, and let's wish Fergus the very best. Bye.